co-host Locke, and this is the podcast where we drink, smoke, and bullshit about the life of a historic criminal. Now we're talking outlaws and gangsters. We're not going to cover too many serial killers. That's just a little bit dark for me, and this ain't no true crime podcast. Honestly, you can't call this a history podcast because I'm no historian. I'm just a history fan that does some research and bullshits about it with his friends. So speaking of my friends, let me introduce you to my co-host. With us today, our first guest, we got Tone.
What up?
And also with us today, back in the saddle, we got Cancer.
What up?
Thanks for coming to the podcast, guys.
Oh, yeah. Glad to be here.
As tradition, we always start off with, because we're drinking and bullshitting, we kind of do the rundown of what everybody's drinking. What do you got today, Cancer? You're kind of a
An alcoholic?
well, I was going to go with beer snob, which is like a nice way of saying alcoholic.
Beer nerd, more like. But, I got Evil Urges from Shorts. It's a Belgian-style dark, strong ale with a sad cat on the bottom.
Nice.
I like it.
I got a Blood Orange IPA. It's the first time I ever tried it. It's pretty good. It's not bad.
You do the IPAs a lot, though, right?
Yeah.
Who makes that one?
Amendment Brewery.
Nice.
The Shorts brew, I've been going with a lot of Shorts lately, and I was almost drinking like strictly Founders. It almost becomes like a crutch. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just easy to go with Founders.
Shorts does good stuff.
They got a lot out there.
Yeah.
So,
oh, yeah.
Now, like my beer today, I feel like this is almost a PSA. I was going to have to kick the craft beers because I got this 5K coming up, and I'm fat as fuck. You know what I mean? And craft beers don't help that. So I was going to cut it down, and have to go to some bullshit, like a Mick Ultra or something. I could go to whiskey, though. I like
avocado
whiskey.
Toast and a Mick Ultra.
But luckily I found, so it's on record that I'm a big fan of Two Hearted. And then I found this Bell's Lighthearted.
Yes.
There you go.
I got a craft beer that I can still go run around with after.
So you could drink double, right?
Right. And that's all that's going to happen is I'm just going to drink way more. I mean, I don't know why I'm going to sit here and pretend.
I don't see much of a difference, but I feel great.
It's a placebo effect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We got to take the time. Thank Swaino for the intro music. So subscribe to his YouTube channel. He puts a lot of content out there. And then while you're subscribing, you can follow us on whatever your favorite pod app is now. We're available on all the podcast players. Rate us and review us on iTunes. You can go to social media. We're Bad Guy Podcast at Instagram. We have all the pictures that we show at the end, but we don't have them as the lead picture. So you can go to the Instagram and you won't see the pictures, but you can go and swipe through and they're all there.
Oh, nice.
No spoilers.
We are a spoiler culture nowadays.
Yeah.
It's the last thing. That'll be my first 1-star review. Some guy that went to the Instagram and fucking seen the picture and it ruined the episode.
You got to warn people about the endings of movies that came out 25 years ago. Like, yo, I didn't see that yet. Like, oh, my bad. I didn't know you hadn't seen The Exorcist yet.
Right? Yeah. I didn't mean to spoil Star Wars for you.
Yeah. My bad.
Guess what? He's his father. I'm sorry.
Yeah, whoops. You just lost 7 listeners just now. And they're like, God damn it, I didn't want to know that.
We'll go ahead and get started. And the bad guy we're covering today is Tom Silverstein.
This ain't negotiation time. This is Scarface, final scene, fucking bazookas under each arm. Say hello to my little friend.
Thomas Edward Silverstein, a.k.a. Terrible Tom.
Right out the gate. Terrible Tom.
But I think most of the bad nicknames are the real nicknames.
Yeah.
You look at early UFC, everybody's nickname was the Young Assassin or something like that. That's what happens when you pick your own name. When you get a nickname, it's typically something like Terrible Tom.
We're like, what do you think of Tom? He's terrible. He's just awful.
Terrible dude.
That's the comic strip that got beat out by Dennis the Menace. They're this close to being Terrible Tom.
Good Lord.
Tom Silverstein was born in Long Beach, California on February 4th, 1952. Now, his mom, Virginia Conway, divorced her husband while pregnant and remarried to a man named Thomas Conway, who Tom calls his dad to this day. He says it's his biological father.
Okay.
But then within 4 years, she divorced Thomas Conway and married a guy named Sid Silverstein. And he legally adopted Tom, and that's how he got the name Tom Silverstein. That was a quick run through of dads in fast succession.
Nice.
He grew up in a middle-class neighborhood, but he is described as timid, awkward, and shy, frequently bullied, a lot of times because his peers mistakenly believed him for being Jewish.
I don't see how. Has nothing to do with his name, right?
Right? Shocker. I wouldn't imagine how that would happen. Virginia Silverstein didn't really put up with that shit, and she was insistent that her son fight back. So she would tell him, like, if you come home crying because you got in a fight with a bully, well, then I'm going to beat your ass too. So you don't come home crying. You better stick up for yourself. You better fight back. A quote Tom said about his mom, she stood her mud. If someone came at you with a bat, you got your bat and you both went at it.
Gotta love a mom that's into bat fights. I would have loved if my mom would have come out of the house a few times with a bat. Like, bring it on, motherfucker.
I mean, my mom came out with frying pans. So.
My grandma come out with a slipper. You know what I mean? Like, hit you with a chunkla. That's about it.
Honestly, I think I might prefer a frying pan in a fight because I like a one-handed weapon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A bat's a big swing. That's like got to be the worst version of that quote. Like, what's it supposed to be like if they bring, they bring a knife, you bring a gun. If they bring a bat, like if they bring a bat, I bring a bat too. Well, why can't I bring something better? They're already cheating.
Right.
Like I want you to be aggressive, but I want you to be fair.
Yeah. Like, fuck that. Now I'm in a bat fight? This is fucking ridiculous.
Just put some barbed wire on it or something. Drive a couple nails into it.
What is this, the Warriors?
Yeah.
I know this would be a shocker with that kind of quality parenting, but by the age of 14, due to kind of just chronic delinquency issues, Tom was sentenced to juvenile at the California Youth Authority. And he said there his attitudes towards violence were really reinforced, so that anyone not willing to fight was abused. What we see frequently, you take kids, well, even kids, adults, whatever, like most of these people, this thing has reformatory in the name. He came out saying, oh yeah, you got to be more violent. I believe that's the opposite of reform.
Yeah, I mean, that's usually how it happens. And then they get worse and worse and worse and worse.
Case in point, in 1971, at the age of 19, he got sentenced to San Quentin prison for armed robbery. San Quentin in the 70s, that was kind of ground zero for the prison gangs as we know it now.
Okay.
So most of the gangs that we've heard of, the Mexican Mafia, the Aryan Brotherhood, was San Quentin in the 70s is where a lot of that came from. And then they kind of grew into the overall prison systems because as these guys do crimes and they get
spread around,
get transferred to federal places, then they just franchise it. But
I was in this club at San Quentin. It's really cool. We should start one here.
Well, we've all seen Blood In, Blood Out, right?
Yeah.
So,
actually, I only saw the first 5 minutes of it.
Okay, well, what about American Me?
Yes.
That'll do in a pinch, too. Same thing. So that would be should have been like a pre-work. You go ahead and watch that, and then come back, and then that'll be like San Quentin in the 70s.
Right.
I never went back to it. The first time I was just out of high school. We were all sitting at a friend's house watching it. And I smoked too much weed and drank too much and threw up on myself 5 minutes into the movie. So don't spoil it for me. I only saw the first 5 minutes.
So it left that bad impression. You get that bad drunk and you can never go back to it. Well, I definitely think it's
Farm and Blood In, Blood Out. Two things I don't fuck with anymore because of that day.
It's definitely like a movie you should see once, but I don't know. I mean, look, Once Upon a Time in America is one of my favorite gangster movies, right? I seen it was back on Netflix. Went and clicked on it, was going to watch it. Seen it was 4 hours, and I was like, yeah.
Yeah, that's a commitment.
I'm straight. I'm good on that.
Maybe next year.
I mean, Blood In, Blood Out, I believe, is like a 3.5 hour movie, so it's kind of on that.
I wonder if they thought I was dead. That's the whole thing.
Now, this is where Tom Silverstein first got his first affiliation with the Aryan Brotherhood. In the prison gangs, they are the smallest, like in numbers, so they have to make up with it for being the most violent. So the Aryan Brotherhood's known for being one of the most violent gangs, and they're the smallest gang. He does 4 years in San Quentin, and he finally gets paroled out. But by now, he's pretty much a fucking hardened criminal because he's not out for a couple years, and then he meets up with his dad, his old dad, Thomas Conway, and then his cousin Gerald Hoff, and they go on a string of armed robberies.
Nice.
Conway was his biological?
That was the one he called his biological dad, so that'd be like the middle dad.
So he don't know his biological dad.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha.
Tom Conway would be second divorce. I guess dad too. Not the adopted dad, the dad in his heart.
Right.
And so they're a family that does armed robberies together. At least they're together.
That's good. Well, I mean, he's been out of his life for a while. It's time they should catch back up.
Yeah,
right.
Quality time, you know what I mean?
Hey, I heard you did some time up in San Quentin. Let's see what you got, kid.
Let's see what you learned.
Well, clearly none of the three of them were too good at it. So they hit 3 stores. They made just over $11,000, and then they got caught and charged with all 3. Tom Silverstein was then sentenced to 15 years for armed robbery to be served in Leavenworth, Kansas.
Damn.
And Leavenworth's another bad one, right?
Yeah, Leavenworth, yeah, that's a big one.
So he's doing the tour.
Yes. Well, that's definitely to have done time in both San Quentin and Leavenworth. That's not county.
No,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's crazy.
At Leavenworth, there was an Aryan Brotherhood. The Aryan Brotherhood, they also go by AB, but what they primarily go by is the brand. So
Brand?
yeah, so if you ever hear the brand,
Okay.
that's the Aryan
Talking
Brotherhood.
about the Gap.
No. I honestly I feel like that's a good marketing, right? The brand.
Yeah.
I mean, it's short, it's catchy. Like everybody knows Aryan Brotherhood when you hear that. Doesn't sound,
Yeah, if
Right.
it wasn't connected to them, it would be.
if nothing else, solid marketing.
Yes.
So the brand there, they had a low-key presence. So Tom was able to pretty rapidly rise through the ranks. He had a reputation for being violent, fearless, and a criminal strategist. He was smart and he was down to fight, and that's pretty much about what it took.
Yeah.
Okay.
In 1980, a younger AB member named Danny Atwell was asked to start muling heroin into prison. So they want his girl to bring it in. So his girlfriend brings it in, hands it over to him. He keister stashes it, and then they bring it in. That's kind of the game plan.
And what year around is this?
This is 1980.
Ah.
And heroin is typically the drug of choice in prison. So Danny Atwell refuses, and he's killed in prison. And Tom Silverstein was charged and convicted with the murder of Danny Atwell and sentenced to life without parole and transferred to the United States Penitentiary in Marion, Illinois. That was the time that was a higher security facility.
Okay.
Interesting. Never heard of that one.
It's because nowadays, and we'll get there eventually, it's been lowered its security status because it houses like it's a unit for people with charges for sex crimes, like as a rehab center. So I guess they take the violent motherfuckers out because they'll kill the sex offenders or whatever.
Yeah.
So now Marion is not. It's not even a maximum security prison. It's like a medium security prison. Okay. But at that time, it was a maximum security prison.
Okay.
And it was one of the most combative prisons in the country.
Oh, wow.
The odd thing about the Danny Atwell murder is in 1985, it ends up getting overturned. A couple of the witnesses, it turned out that they perjured themselves and they got caught lying. So all that evidence all the testimony got thrown out. The charge got thrown out. It doesn't mean he did or didn't kill him. Right. I don't know exactly, but he did get, he was doing 15 years. He got convicted of that murder and got sentenced to life without parole. And then it ends up getting overturned. But by the time it gets overturned, that will have been irrelevant at that point.
Yeah. I never really understood that. Like, if I was ever, like, falsely accused or something, I end up going to jail or prison or whatever, I would lie about killing people. I would, like, try to scare people, try to keep them away from me, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They always use that. Like, you watch Forensic Files, they'll be like, well, a cellmate overheard him say this and that. You're like, I don't know how you could take that as truth. You know what I'm saying? Like, take that as gospel. Like, like in prison, you would just say whatever.
Right. I'm going to tell you whatever you guys want to hear that would give me a shorter sentence or get me the hell out of here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never quite understood why they would put stock in that stuff.
Right.
Well, I feel like you have to have a bad attorney on your end because that's got to be super unreliable testimony, right?
Yeah. Credibility alone is always an issue.
Right, for sure on the credibility side.
Yeah.
But on the... It's just he just said it somewhere, and we're gonna.
You're in prison, or didn't your rights just get taken away from you? Why are you allowed to snitch?
Not only that, but it'd be like, hey, if you tell me that so and so did this, there's an extra couple packs of cartons of smokes in it for it. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was too much room back then for incentives and for just muddying the waters by just offering things to people or just people wanting to be like, hey, I'll give you the so-and-so killer if you take 10 years off my sentence or something.
Well, yeah, so little goes a long way. Like you're saying, some commissary, something that on the street wouldn't get a guy to roll out of bed. All of a sudden they're like, yeah, you know what?
You know what? Yeah.
I'll tell him.
Get an extra hour outside next week? Okay.
Yeah. Especially if you catch a transfer out or something. You're transferring somewhere else, and this is all like pre-internet and shit like that. Like, you know what? I'm out of here.
Yep.
But anyways, like I said, now by the time it gets overturned, it won't matter anymore. At Marion, he was housed in a unit called the Control Unit, and it was reserved for extreme management problems. So prisoners that are prone to assault and disruptive behavior. So it's kind of like, I don't know, it's like the show Oz. it's almost kind of counterproductive to say, like, to take areas and say this is for all the worst people.
Right.
Yeah.
That seems like a
It
bad
is, right?
idea.
Yeah.
So we're just going to take all the worst people and stick them together? Oh, yeah, that should go fine.
It's like all the worst movies are like that. It'd be like post-apocalyptic. Like, put all the bad people in one area. What could go wrong?
The big gang in Marion was called the DC Blacks. That was the second largest black prison gang behind the Black Guerrilla family. And they kind of like were running most of the operation at Marion. In 1981, Terrible Tom and another AB member named Clayton Fountain went into the cell of a high-ranking DC black member named Robert Chappelle, and one strangled him while the other one held him down on his bed.
Oh, shit.
Now, unbelievably, I know this would be a shocker, but Tom Silverstein actually denied that one too. He said he didn't do that one. Yeah, oddly enough, he was like, yeah, I did.
Did he ever do anything? Has he ever committed a crime in his life?
No, I
According
don't
to
even
him.
know why I'm in here.
Yeah.
I swear to God, I didn't kill that one either.
I was railroaded.
You guys just keep trying to put these,
Yeah.
all these people
Well, you
keep
gotta
dying right
putting it
around.
on me.
While Silverstein was on trial for Chappelle's murder, the Bureau of Prison transferred a guy named Ray Smith, known as Cadillac Ray, and he was the national leaders of the DC Blacks.
All right.
And not only did they transfer him to Marion, they transferred him to the control unit. So they transferred him to the exact same unit as the guy that just killed one of their leaders. And they have prison logs showing that the first day that he arrived in the unit, Cadillac Ray started making moves to try and kill Tom Silverstein.
Makes sense.
There was a quote from Silverstein that said, "I tried to tell Cadillac that I didn't kill Chappelle, but he didn't believe me, and he was bragging to everyone he's going to kill me." Like, you thought that was going to work? Like, hey, I didn't kill him, dude.
I just need one person to believe me. I just need one person to have faith in me. That's all. What about you, Ray? I didn't do it, man.
Well, and I think, like, so even if he believes you, and he says, okay, you didn't kill him. I'm the national leader of the DC Blacks. You're one of the leaders of the Aryan Brotherhood. I don't care. I'm
So
still
we're going to hold hands and
Right.
skip through the yard? Or what? Like, it doesn't really matter, yeah.
You know why I'm here, right?
He's not a detective. He's not going to be like, oh, well, I guess I should find the real killer.
Right.
They interviewed other prisoners, Tom, other members of the prison gangs, and everybody basically said everybody knew it was going to happen, and nobody did anything about it. And I said it was like the guards were waiting for it to happen. That pretty much the guards kind of wanted to see one of the two of them kill each other.
Okay.
Yeah, they all have money on it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the whole reason they put them together. You know what I'm saying? Like, figure, okay, you got two horrible people. Maybe one of them will cancel the other one out. Or maybe they'll both cancel each other out. You don't have to deal with either one of them.
I've seen stories out there of prisons where there's been rings broken up of COs, like organizing, prisoner fights and stuff. And like we were talking about earlier, you can get guys to do for a little commissary or some
Yeah.
smokes.
Right.
You can for
Absolutely.
sure get them to get into some gladiator fighting and shit.
Hell yeah.
I mean, what else you got to do?
And who's going to believe you if you be like, well, the warden told us to do it. You're like, yeah, sure. And you didn't rob those stores, right? With your dad? And you didn't kill the guy in the cell, right? Sure.
You spend a lot of time not doing things.
For a guy that's in prison, that's been in three of the worst prisons, you're an unlucky dude.
There's just a lot of people trying to set you up
Yeah.
for some reason.
Why are you so important?
Right.
So not long after Terrible Tom and Clay Fountain, while they're in the rec area, they snuck off and were able to catch Ray Smith in the shower area, and they shanked him 67 times.
That's all?
After they killed him, they took his body and marched it up and down the catwalks in front of all the cells
Man.
so that they could
Like
show
Weekend
everybody.
at Bernie's and shit?
That's how I picture it. Yeah, that's what.
Oh, good Lord.
Now I seen
great.
a picture that was a drawing. Like it wasn't like the actual picture,
Right.
but it looked more like carrying them across, like you carry your wife or whatever, like in your arms.
Oh, across the threshold?
Yeah, looked like across the threshold is what it looked like it carried them. But in my mind, I picture the two of them Weekend and Bernie. And
Oh, man. That's so he was trying to, make give a message for everybody. Like, hey, this is what we did.
well, like I said, being an undermanned gang, most of their deal was you have to put it out there. Look, we're violent. We'll fuck people
Yeah,
up.
do the
so
worst things because you don't have the numbers. That makes sense.
Well, I read a thing one time or one of the things while I was doing this guy, they said, like, one of the rules with the Aryan Brotherhood is once you commit to killing a guy, Like if the guy runs, you gotta chase him. If he runs into the warden's office, you stab him in front of the warden. If the warden jumps in, then you kill the warden too. Like there's no there's no backing down. Like once you start it, they gotta die. Like there's no escaping one of our hits. That's fucking well. I mean, you can see a guy that was doing. I mean, 15 years is big time. Yeah, but he didn't hesitate within a short amount of time to turn that 15 years into a life sentence and then into another life sentence.
What I don't get, though, is like, okay, so I can see the mentality where you're like, I'm not going to reform, even though I never did anything.
Right.
I'm not going to reform once I get out, so I'm probably going to end up back here again. But, I mean, you could at least have that little bit of freedom. It's like, when do you get to that point where you're just like, fuck it, I'm going to be here forever, so I might as well just do whatever. You know what I'm saying?
I'm just going to be the fucking man of this place.
They're going to call me Terrible Tom. I'm going to be terrible.
You give a man a terrible nickname, you get a terrible performance.
If they called me punctual, then I might be on time all the time. I don't know.
So, for the murder of Cadillac Ray, he was given another life sentence, which is now his third life sentence.
And a Cadillac.
But it was the first murder that he admits to doing.
Oh, so that one he did.
Yeah, he did kill. He will tell you that he killed Cadillac Ray.
All that other stuff I didn't do, but this one, yeah, this one's
pretty much the only one that counts, though, right?
Right. It doesn't matter. It's a life sentence. So you get, if you one of them.
Man.
Well, and at this point, this is only 1981. That's why I said once that one gets overturned in 85, it doesn't fucking matter anymore because you've already killed all these other guys and you have all these extra life terms.
Right.
You know. So now it turns out.
Okay, no, you got one less life sentence.
now
you run 2 life sentences to serve concurrently. Like, oh, cool. So I'm doing double time.
Now you're just never ever getting out.
Yeah.
Instead of never ever ever.
Right, yeah. As if there's some delineation between the two.
In addition to getting another life sentence, now they moved him to solitary confinement. But he was still able to primarily call the shots from solitary confinement.
I'm always intrigued. How did they do that shit?
It's
through the guards?
It's got to be through the guards a lot of times. They say that, I don't know about this time in 81, but by now the brand has taken over the overall control from the mafia. So for a long time, the blacks and Mexican gangs typically got the numbers.
Okay.
But the mafia always had, they had the control. They had the money. They had the connections. So they were the ones that could get stuff into the prison. They were the ones that could get stuff done. They were the ones that could buy off guards. Well, at this point, the Aryan not this point in the story, like at this point today, the Aryan Brotherhood has overtaken the mafia in prison to the point where when John Gotti was in prison, he used the Aryan Brotherhood as his security.
I got it.
I'm guessing, I mean, it's got to be mostly the guards.
Right.
Yeah, around that time, I would think, yeah. Everybody wants something from somebody.
But he didn't mind solitary too much. Like I said, he was able to continue running he was able to continue kind of calling shots, and he spent a lot of his time with his art. Turns out,
oh no,
he's pretty good.
Damn.
So he's a pretty good artist. He'll do art the rest of his life.
Yeah, he actually is. That previous picture, was that the Aryan Brotherhood?
Yes.
They all look like cholos.
No, that was it's those mustaches.
Yeah,
they
all want to look Mexican. It's like we hate the Mexicans, but we want to look like them.
Right.
That was the AB. It's just
look at that perspective and that shading. Terrible Tom's not so terrible.
He might be terrible in life, but in art, fairly good.
Hey, he's a piece of shit, but man, he can draw.
Well, and these are just kind of a couple that I grabbed. Like, you can look at, like, he's got a lot of art out there. And some of it's pretty good. I mean, some of it's a little creepy, but it's pretty good.
Like creepy.
You know what's weird, though, is sometimes he has some stuff that's real hacky, too. So, like, you can see, like, a lot of stuff he draws where it's like, he draws situations that he's in prisons, like with the guards and stuff like that, on how he's treated.
Yeah.
And it almost looks like cartoony, like something that I would draw. But then he'll draw, like, this crazy, pencil work.
Yeah, that's really, really crazy.
So he'd spend a lot of his time doing art, but then he eventually started to develop a grudge with a correction officer named Merle Clutts.
Is that a nickname or is that his real name?
His actual last name was Clutts. Clutts.
That poor guy.
Merle
he
Clutts.
Was either going to become, was he?
A corrections officer?
Yeah, he's either going to become that or just be bullied the rest of his life and not become anything else.
A CEO, a police officer. He's what Channing Tatum's character in 21 Jump Street. Just
oh god,
that's me. I'm Merle Clutts.
Clutts. Oh, that poor man.
Now he was He was a 19-year guy. He had been a corrections officer a long time, and all of his coworkers seemed to like him. But most prisoners interviewed that were asked about him typically said they didn't like him. They said he was a bully. And what a lot of them said is it's not so much like, okay, we don't like any of the COs. Mm-hmm. You know, but a lot of them, we understand, you know, we're all trying to coexist in here. We have a respect. They treat us with respect.
Right.
And they said it was beyond just he was an authority. It was a lot more, he was compared a lot to a bully. They said he liked to impose himself on the prisoners.
Yeah, because when he was a kid, he was probably bullied and called a klutz.
Now
and
he's
tripping
the one
all
with the
time.
power.
Yeah, he's the man. He's like, who's the klutz now?
Right? I'm in here with this big stick.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know if that's a story, but
right.
That's probably the story.
Right, because I'm sitting here picking on some corrections officer as I'm talking about this murderer. That's just in here. Well, loser. With your 19 years on the job.
Yeah. Putting your life on the line every day.
That's the problem when you do too much of this research. You start reading too much about these bad guys. You're like, yeah, fuck these cops, man.
Yeah.
Oh, Merle Clutts. Where he tended to be a bully, he seemed to specifically like picking on Tom Silverstein. And what it seemed like is he kind of fancied himself a big bad guy, and he kind of wanted to put Tom in his place. Like when Tom Tom was only allowed out in solitary. You only get out you get like your hour of rec time or whatever, and then you get out to go to like a shower, or if you got visitation or something like that. Whenever he would get out of his cell, like a lot of times Merle Clutts would tell him like, oh, I helped you out a little bit with your art in there, and he'd like go smudge out all his work, which there's a lot of pencil work. So if you smudge it, it would really fuck it up real bad.
That's a typical CO thing to do.
And he would always break his pencils or steal his pencils, and then he would search his room. They were allowed to search the room whenever, but he would search his room all the time just to do it, and he would just go in there and just flip all, you know what I mean, just wreck his shit and just kind of leave it. So they just kind of had this like back and forth beef where they didn't get along. Terrible Tom decided that it was important to set the tone in the federal prison system that not only does the brand run things in the prison with the prisoners and they're not to be fucked with, but they run things with the COs too. And it doesn't matter who you are, if you come in here, you're not to fuck with us. So he put together a plan, and then he ordered another AB member named Randy Gomez to get himself thrown into solitary. And when he got thrown into solitary, he went in there with a shank and then a key. Now, I had multiple sources. One said that it was a homemade key. Some say that they had one shipped in from the outside. But either way, he keister stashed a shank and a key and got himself thrown into solitary confinement.
Plenty of room in there, huh?
Look,
he had a suitcase, he had a cane, he had a shank.
I guess someone's up for early retirement.
He had a wallet up his ass.
Like when you start hearing
a sofa set.
Look, it's obviously that's all fucked up. But like you hear a lot. Like when it comes to prison gangs, like the baddest motherfuckers in there. Like when it's drugs or something, you know what I mean? They fucking all do it. But like when you start hearing stories about a shank, what the fuck, man? How are you supposed to fucking? That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's a fucking.
I mean, like, how do you sit on the bus ride up there? You know what I mean? Like,
oh my god.
Hey, I had a system with string, duct tape, saran wrap. Like what?
Do they? You think they tape it up or something like that, like the blade?
I'm assuming they would have to. There's no way, or else you would just die.
You know what I mean? Like, I'd rather just speculate because there's no way I'm gonna look that up and be like, how do they stuck that shit up their ass?
Well, because look, we discussed our concerns over the feds coming to get us just by Googling your album.
Yes.
So yeah. You Google what was it? Grenades, pistols, and rape whistles?
Yes.
Right. So that right there can possibly
true.
Get the feds called. So you definitely don't want to start looking into keister stashes.
Yeah, no. I'd rather go to the library and if they have something, read it there.
Specifically shanks.
Yes.
So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go ahead and take us a break real quick. So we're gonna take a smoke break, refill our drinks, and we'll be back in a minute.
Concrete
listening, just real quick, want to ask you to subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app. Go to Apple iTunes, give us a 5-star rating, and leave us a review, and we'll read it on the show. If you have any questions, comments, or a guy that you would recommend we cover, you can email us at sayhellotothabadguypodcast@gmail.com. We also want to thank Sixfo Sueno for letting us use his music in the intro. You can subscribe to him on YouTube, and also a friend of the show, Cancer. He's got an art, photography, and graphic design page at Eyes Bleed Defiance on Instagram. You can see a lot of his work, including our cover art, which he designed. And he also performed the mid-show song, Blood, from his album, Grenades, Pistols, and Rape Whistles. Now back to the show. All right, we're back. When we left off, Terrible Tom, he was kind of putting his plan in place to make sure that he could kind of set the tone, that whether you're a prisoner or guard, nobody's going to fuck with Aryan Brotherhood. Okay, so Terrible Tom kind of started casing them out. So he started getting a good, like, he would watch their every move. Like, when they let him out of the cell, you always have to, in solitary, you always have to be handcuffed. So before you even come out of your cell, you turn around, they handcuff you through the lunch slot, and then they open the gate and let you in. But he would watch carefully, like, how they would act, what they would move, what they would do, pick up patterns. So he started scoping them out for a while. And once he kind of had it figured out, on October 22nd, 1983, when they were taking him out of his cell to take a shower, when he caught Merle Clutts not paying attention when they were in front of the cell of Randy Gomez, the guy that had smuggled in the shit, he put his hands over by the lock, or by the meal slot, and the guy used the key to unlock his handcuffs and hand him a shank.
Wow.
And he shanked Merle Clutts 42 times in front of the other two guards.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
He was eventually overtaken by the other two guards and then rearrested. And then
After 42 times, though?
yeah.
They're like, hey, stop. That's 39. You better stop. 3 more and we're going to rush you.
There's 2 different stories I've seen on this, too. So I did see a reference that said the other 2 cops, or the other 2 officers, took off at first. Then I seen one that said that they jumped in, but he was just, he does 2,000 push-ups a day. Instead, it just basically turned into a big brawl. He was focused on shanking the one guy. And eventually, like, the other guys were hurt and shit like that.
Oh,
so,
okay.
So they did attack the other 2?
No, they attacked him. He didn't stop stabbing Merle Clutts because he was, Merle Clutts because he was done.
Yeah.
He was just stabbing them until they eventually got him off of him.
Wow.
So it seems like it was kind of a brawl or whatever.
Right.
Either way, he stabbed that guy and they got him. Merle Clutts died. So now while they're trying to figure out what happened, get it cleaned up, and, kind of reestablish everything in the unit, 2 hours later, Silverstein's friend Clayton Fountain, the guy that helped him with the other 2 murders,
Yeah.
he killed another corrections officer, Robert Hoffman, the same way.
So they just teach these motherfuckers a lesson.
Is this the same day?
2 hours later. So while they were still actively, this guy just got shanked. An
They're
officer.
trying to deal with that situation.
Yeah.
And then they got this other.
So from solitary confinement, they planned it out for the same day, same time. Like,
Man.
it's really crazy. Like, I don't know. Like, so when I said he was still running shit from solitary, and you're like, well, how does that happen?
Yeah.
I have no fucking clue. Like,
Right.
Yeah, that's crazy.
he admits to this murder too. So now he's past saying he didn't do it.
He kind of, he kind of had to on this one. It was like, you got me.
Yeah,
You got me.
red-handed. Caught me with my hand in the cookie jar.
Yeah, good Lord, man. That's crazy. 42 times.
He said that he felt real bad because his wife and daughter came to court. He's got a, it seems like a nice wife and a nice kid, and this guy's some regular guy, but he said, but the guy was an asshole, and nobody sees that. So everybody sees me, I'm a bad guy that stabbed him, but the guy was an asshole.
Right,
So he said, I feel bad for his wife and kid, but fuck him. Which, like I said, I don't know. Maybe the guy was an asshole. Maybe he's a corrections officer and this guy's a psychopath. Either way, you can't stab people 42 times.
Yeah.
You can, but you're dealing with prisoners here. They're here for a reason. You need to think twice when you're fucking being a dick to these guys.
Well,
they don't have anything else to lose.
Well, and specifically ones that have a reputation of acting wild.
Right.
These guys, it's not like he's a guy that seems like he takes that well.
Right.
He's a guy that clearly pushes back.
Yeah, I can understand, like, showing no fear, but to actually, like, poke the bear just...
Right, you just keep poking him.
Yeah, that just doesn't seem like a good plan. It doesn't, and obviously it didn't go well.
Dude had it coming.
If he was.
Clear.
If he was like that.
Yeah.
I don't know about the other CO. He might have been one of the other dicks.
Yeah.
On the other side of the prison.
Yeah, I mean,
every unit got one that they don't like.
One or two.
I mean, a lot of it sounds like assholes complaining about assholes.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're on the outside looking in, or even if you're on the inside looking at those guys, you might be like, I wouldn't mind seeing both of them gone.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
you might be like, that guy's a prick, that guy's a bigger prick, but he's the one in charge.
Well, very often, like they say in the movie Departed, when a guy's pointing a gun at you, whether it's a cop or a criminal, does it really matter?
Yeah,
Similar character types. You got alpha people that are willing to do wild shit, for minimal money sometimes.
Right.
Yep.
Just because they're, kind of, they're all go.
No, we all know somebody.
Yeah.
We all know dudes like that. We all know guys that we went to school with where we're like, either he's going to be a crazy criminal or go in the military, and be a border patrol guard. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, some people you just see those traits and it can go in.
This guy's going to rape somebody one day.
Yeah. And it's either going to be sanctioned by the government, by the city, or it's going to be for a gang or something. But it's going to happen.
Right. Oh, definitely. I feel like I said there's a lot on here, but sometimes these guys would have been, like I always say, I don't cover serial killers, it's too dark.
Right.
Some of these guys would have been serial killers if they didn't fall in with this gang or this thing that just became their avenue of venting that.
Right.
It would have been hitchhikers on the street.
Right.
But but I joined this gang, so now I'm a biker or I'm a mobster or I'm a fucking, a Aryan Brotherhood.
Well, you kind of kill him for a purpose, right?
Right.
Tommy Karate was one of them, wasn't he? Wasn't he the guy who kept trophies?
Yeah.
Which was really strange. Like,
He kept little pieces and shit, and that's
Like-
very
like
serial killer behavior.
Trophies of what, like stuff that the person had, or like stuff off their body.
For him, what was it?
It was something from so it was like jewelry or just a little different thing.
Yeah.
Just something they took off of him.
But like that's serial killer behavior when you keep something like to remember it. It's like a trophy. Like so anytime you see it, you can remember that kind of murder.
Yeah.
So he was a gangster, a mobster. But that kind of shows you he would have, went a different direction if
he just used that set of skills that he had for them.
That
They see the
pointed in a
potential in
direction.
him, and they're
Yes.
like, we have a use for you.
Yes.
But, and usually in the movies when you see that, like the bosses will be like, "Yeah, he's got a screw loose, but he comes in handy."
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Be like, I don't trust that guy at all.
Right.
But
I don't invite him over to dinner or anything.
Yeah. He'll probably bring over a head or something, but he takes care of business.
Or, even like we were saying, two sides of the same coin. If you look in the military, that same guy,
Right.
if you look at what's the movie Full Metal Jacket, Animal Mother, he'd be a
yeah.
shitty dude, but when you guys are kicking down a door,
Yeah, you want that guy right there.
I'm with him. I'm with the big crazy
I'm
guy.
with Animal Mother over here. Hey, me and him, we go way back.
This is my boy.
Yep, that's my dude right there.
So after the two murders, USP Marion was subsequently placed in indefinite lockdown. The lockdown ended up lasting a total of 23 years. Shit.
What, the solitary or the?
Lockdown on the whole prison.
So, I mean, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Like no visitation, no outside time?
They eliminate all the rights. Now it varies from prison to prison,
Wow.
but that's where you don't get. Yeah, that's when you stop getting visitors. You stop getting commissary. You stop getting rec time. You start getting like there's some kind of
Damn.
rule where you need to get so much exercise, so you always get like yard time.
Yeah.
But your TV privileges, like the little stuff that makes life manageable. Like I said, commissary. You're just
man.
kind of.
It's like in class when like who threw the spitball? Like everybody gets detention.
Yeah.
Amplified by like 1,000. Like you can't get shit
For
because
23 years.
that's another reason to say like those guys. If you're just a regular prisoner here, like man, fuck those guys. Fuck those guys. Fuck
Yeah.
the guards. Fuck everybody. You're like I'm stuck here. You're like no, I can't even get visitation. I can't even get nothing.
Yeah.
Can't even get ramen noodles. Can't get nothing because of those guys.
Yeah, everybody has their TV time. So like when you're in prison, whatever your TV time, so it could be the View, whatever is on when you have your. That's what you watch.
No Lord's Woke this week.
Yeah, and that's your shit. Like now all of a sudden I don't get my TV. I can't fucking
In the 80s, man, there's a lot of good TV to miss.
right.
Yeah.
Just because these motherfuckers want to act up, man.
Man, those 23 years must have been fucking ridiculous, bro.
Yeah. Now, what's the name of that prison again? That's the Marion one.
USP Marion.
Yeah, that's So is it after the lockdown that they switched their whole steez up? Like
Yep.
they just okay, yeah. Like,
which wasn't that
very strange.
Which wasn't that long ago. That's this millennium now. So that would have been in the 2000s.
Wow, that's interesting.
Now, Gomez and Silverstein, they were both transferred to the United States Penitentiary in Atlanta. Silverstein was put in solitary confinement where they kept the lights on for 24 hours and he had to be watched constantly. And they wanted to install a camera system, and it took 6 months to install a camera system. So for 6 months, 2 guards sat outside of his cell for 24 hours a day.
Jeez.
Until they installed the cameras.
So that was one way he could keep track of the time.
Right. Honestly, when the guards shift?
Yeah. You shift, you'd be like, okay, well, it's daytime. It's nighttime. Daytime. Nighttime.
Yeah. Which shift are you?
Because otherwise you wouldn't really know, would you?
Now, the court officer, the judges that sentenced him off the murder, his status was updated to no human contact. What that meant is outside of the guards, he couldn't see any people. So no visitors, no...
Not even other prisoners then.
No other prisoners, no anything.
No, I'm sorry, but so once the... Wait a minute. So he got transferred to another prison.
Yes, USP Atlanta.
But all the people in the other prison
suffering because of this.
Suffering.
That's fucked up.
That's
because of him and his crew and shit.
Why? That doesn't... That's...
Yeah. So so the first thing they do is transfer him out, and then So you were talking about that random prisoner that's just some guy doing his time.
Yeah.
Not only did they fuck this up for me, they ain't even here.
Yeah.
Like they did that shit and then left, and then now I'm in lockdown.
Right.
Yeah, that's
for the next 2 decades.
Wow, man, that's crazy.
And you can't even put out a hit on this motherfucker because there's no way to even get anything out of that
And he's
prison.
in solitary. So they transfer him to this other place. And he's in solitary for how long now? Indefinitely, or?
They do like a yearly check on his status to find out. So once a year they'll bring him.
Crazy yet?
Once a year they bring him in to see, you know what I mean, if he's okay or whatever, or if they need to change his status. So if there's some reason that we need to upgrade him or whatever, or put him, and every year they're like, no, he's good in solitary, put him back.
Wow.
It's no human contact is his status. He's like the only guy in the prison system that had the no human human contact.
All he sees is guards, and then once a year he sees like a physician or and then he goes back to.
The physician comes to him.
I don't want to jump the gun, but how long is he in this solitary?
A long time.
Long time, man.
So that's got to be the worst of the worst, right? As far as being in jail.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, like they made it up for him. Like nobody else had ever had that. It never been a thing. So it's kind of, they were kind of making it up as they go. And then when they come and do the status checks, they said what they look for is signs of being anger and frustrated with the conditions. Because as long as he's fucking pissed off and hating it, they're like, yep, that's normal.
Yeah. Because at that point you'd rather be dead, right? I mean, you have no interactions with anybody. You know what I'm saying? You can't even like get a visit from a female and add something to your spank bank, you know?
Yeah. No,
like
you just got to remember every catalog you've ever looked at in your entire life. Like I remember a Glamour from 1975.
Well, and he was born in the 50s, so that shit was fucking. I mean. You're looking at like a mom with an apron on the cover of a magazine was the closest that you get to some shit.
With some really crazy recipes inside.
Yeah, I mean, he probably has no choice but to be beating off the fucking the COs that
that are always there. Like they're there.
Oh, thank God he shaved today. Makes it a little easier. But like,
so terrible.
I mean, I'm not trying to minimize killing a CO in any way, but he can't be so anybody that does what he did would get the same treatment, but if he can't be the first guy that killed a guard,
right?
Or you know what I'm saying, like, or maybe he was, I don't know, but it just seems like
I mean,
had happened before.
He already had 2 life sentences or three already. I mean, what more are you gonna add on to the dude? You know what I'm saying?
Pretty much.
Well, what they were more frustrated with the organizing. Like, so I'm sure, I don't know, I didn't check this. They did say something about the first time that up until then handcuffing had been like almost 100%. You know what I mean? When you got your guy Hun. So he's the guy first time that they had to like rechange their handcuff protocol to keep an eye on these guys.
Man. He's an innovator.
Right. But I didn't.
You can say what you want about Terrible Tom, but he gets things done.
So I don't know that it's the first time anybody's ever killed a guard. I think it's the first time that they've ever done like a simultaneous organized hit on guards, which is what they're trying.
In that particular prison,
right? Yeah. So some people had said, well, what he did, like, yeah, that's terrible, but he killed a guard. Then you have people that go out and kill tons of people,
right?
But then get thrown in,
right?
And they're in general population,
yeah.
So there's, this is weird. What the guy's quote was, he says, "When an inmate kills a guard, he must be punished. We can't execute Silverstein, so we have no choice but to make his living a hell. Otherwise, other inmates will kill guards too. There has to be some supreme punishment. Every convict knows that Silverstein is going through, and we want them to realize that if they cross the same line that he did, he will pay a heavy price."
But it's weird, like, if everybody's gonna know what he did and what he's going through, why the fuck would you transfer him? Wouldn't he be going through that there so then people know? Like this is an example of what happens when you do this.
Right,
We're gonna ship you somewhere else?
Well, you think that he would, they would have been better off, like, keeping him there so, like,
right.
When he is, like, back into the general population, these motherfuckers are still in, complete lockdown. That they're gonna want, like, some kind of payback for, for what they did.
Yeah.
Him and his crew did to... And everybody else has to punish because that's the way jail works, right?
Yeah.
But you fuck with everybody else, they're gonna fuck that prisoner up.
Yeah.
So you ruining something for everybody else.
Maybe they just thought that the corruption would get so out of hand that there was really nothing they could do about it, and that he would eventually get killed.
Big gang war or some shit break out.
Sounds like something that they would want. Not something I would want, but something that they would want. Be like, we can't give him the death penalty. Whatever. Apparently they couldn't because obviously they would have.
Right.
So there has to be some recourse on their end. It's just very strange. Like, right. You know what I'm saying? Like,
so what they're trying to say is we're trying to torture him to set the precedence that you can't fuck with our guards.
Right. Yeah.
And that's crazy because everybody's just trying to set the tone. Tom's just trying to say, hey, if you fuck with us, we'll kill you.
Yeah,
and they're trying to say, well, if you kill us,
there's a lot of messages.
Doesn't seem to be working. Doesn't seem to be working out well for anybody. Honestly,
no, none of these messages are resonating pretty much with anybody.
Now, so the murders at USP Marion, they were the inspiration for the design of the Federal Max Super Prison, Florence ADX.
Oh, nice name.
So Florence ADX in Colorado is America's biggest Supermax prison. So as of right now, it's currently housing Larry Hoover, El Chapo, the Unabomber, and all time.
Wow.
Like Matulo Shakur was there, Nicky Scarfo was there.
Damn.
And Bad Guy Podcast alum Charles Harrelson was in Florence Supermax also.
Nice.
So they built that prison. Like after that happened, they were like, okay, we need somewhere to really put these.
We need another place to put all the worst people in. We're going to get it right this time. I swear.
In 1987, there was the Atlanta prison riots, which was in the USP Atlanta, where he was serving his time. In the riot, a bunch of Cuban detainees took over the prison, and they had it for a significant amount of time.
What year was this? 87?
1987.
Okay. It seems like I remember hearing about this.
I mean, this would have been prime Cuban crime wave era. You know what I mean? Push it to the limit. Fuck it.
Vice City.
I wasn't even thinking about that, but yeah.
The FBI wouldn't work with them, so they weren't trying to negotiate, and they're like, oh, we could just wait them out. So what the Cubans did was they went and let Silverstein out. So that was the first time in 4 years of being completely held in solitary confinement that he got to get out of solitary and see other people and shit.
Wow. But I mean, this is in the middle of a riot.
Yeah.
So
well, it was kind of post-riot. So after the riot was calmed down and they had control of the prison, so the Cubans took over the prison.
Okay, yeah.
And they were at a negotiating stage.
Yeah.
And they're finally like, all right, let's just let Silverstein out. And
I bet he had some aggression to let out.
And all of a sudden, as soon as they let him out, and they're like, well, we let Tom Silverstein out. All of a sudden, the government was like, all right, well, look, we'll come to the negotiating table. Give us Silverstein. And we'll work with your demands and shit.
Oh, these guys are serious. You got Silverstein? Yeah, they let Silverstein out. Oh, shit. What have we got to bargain with?
Well, yeah, so they were afraid, like,
tickets.
As soon as they let him out, they were like, okay, this motherfucker's going to kill all the guards. Like, let's work with him. All right, let's go to the table.
What's his melee weapon at this time? Like, man.
a prison guard testified that during the riot, he actually had a chance, and somebody thought he was going to kill the guy, and it was a guard that was typically pretty nice to him. And Tom told him, like, the guy, he said every time the guy would handcuff him, the guy would ask if they were too tight and shit like that. And when he had a chance to kill him, he just kind of let him go. And the guard said, you're a hostage in a prison riot.
Right.
And this guy that you've been watching, because he's an officer killer, a day in and day out, is all of a sudden
free.
Yeah, free.
So he got it. He was like, he wasn't poking the bear.
Right. Well, and it helped if one of those asshole guards had been on shift, and that's who they had hostage, and he was free.
Yeah.
But they said he pretty much seemed happy just to be able to walk around. Like,
yeah.
He had been in solitary for so long at that point that even just walking around a prison is like walking around New York City.
I'm stuck in my closet for like 7 years, and I step out into my fucking kitchen and be like, "Oh, this is amazing!" I'm like, look,
this is the nicest kitchen ever.
There's a refrigerator. Oh, so much room. I believe it.
So they trade the Cubans were like, well, fuck yeah, because we don't want them. We're just rioting and shit, and we for sure don't care about this area, brother.
I mean, he just happened to be there. All we did is push a button,
right?
And we get what?
Can break glass in case of emergency.
Yes, exactly.
Here comes Silverstein. So they were like, well, fuck yeah. So they traded Silverstein for some of their demands. So they took him and they sent him back to Leavenworth, where he stayed for the next 18 years.
Okay, so Cubans took over. So they got their demands?
Well, they got some of them. I mean, I mean, I'm sure they didn't just get all.
All he did was be in solitary. And they helped him.
Yeah.
Well, did they help? Because
they let him out.
But going back to Leavenworth, is this worse than where he was?
It's the same thing.
Or is it the same thing?
Yeah, same thing.
Same shit, different scenery, or?
Is he going back to confinement?
Yeah, he's still in solitary confinement. He's still
So he got like a little trip out of it, I guess. Yeah. Maybe outside.
But honestly, when he went back to Leavenworth for 18 years, it was back to no human contact and the same setup. So
weird to have somebody speak on your behalf. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right? You think
weird?
You would ask for something out of it,
yeah,
right?
Like,
hey.
Be like, that's just so strange. Be like, okay, well, all I'm doing is, I'm a terrible person. I killed the CEO, so I'm going to do my time. I'm sitting in solitary. They let me out, and they use me as a pawn, I guess.
Yeah, I'm sure he didn't know it was the negotiations was over him,
Yeah, no. Like, if only one day the Cubans take over the prison, then I'll at least get a small vacation.
Because he's not going to hang out with the Cubans to see what they're doing.
They're not going to put a bag over his head as he takes the trip to Leavenworth, so at least, he got to be outside for whatever. Like, it's very strange.
That is kind of sad. So now for the next 18 years, every day when you're in solitary confinement, you're like, well, I mean, today could be the day the Cubans riot. You never know.
Yeah, you never know, man.
It's happened before. Stranger things have happened.
Could be.
Dude, I got to walk around C Block. It was so fucking dope.
It was beautiful. Those khaki carpets was the first question would be when I got to Leavenworth, it'd be like, so lots of Cubans here? Were the Cubans in the other prison? Did they even have a gang?
No, not really. Well,
I mean, like the fucking Aryan Brotherhood had to be like, Jesus Christ, man! You're like, look at all the shit we did, and the goddamn Cubans took over. And we're like, you know what I'm saying? Like, goddamn Cubans.
We had to work out a plan and shit.
We worked this hard, and we got overshadowed.
Well, I'm guessing it had to be just a numbers game, because in the 80s, there's so many Cubans came over at the same time and kind of immediately went into the drug trade, and that's a federal crime, right? Yeah. So I'm guessing it was just a numbers game. You just get so many people in, so many, and people like, okay, that's the problem with them, like the issue with MS-13, right? They're from El Salvador, and it was a war-torn country. So when they came here, they were just ready to go to a level that people ain't seen.
Yeah.
They were kind of like fist fighting and maybe shooting each other.
Yeah, anything's better than.
Yeah, they came from a place where they're macheting each other in the street. So they're ready to go to a different level. Cuba was kind of like that. That was Castro, you know what I mean? War-torn Cuba. These guys come over to America. They were kind of like, oh, your crime ain't shit. Like, dude, we'll machine gun motherfuckers and hit them with chainsaws and shit. They were ready to go.
Right.
War-torn countries produce dark criminals.
For sure. Because there's a level of desperation that people on a general level don't understand.
Yeah.
It's like I saw a weird I know this is a side thing, but like Dave Matthews was talking about how he said he was starving once, and he was near somebody like in South Africa, and they were like literally starving. So he's like, like you say these certain things that they're just phrases, but in certain contexts they take on different meaning because they're literal. Right. Yeah. People are literally starving. So it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
look, you take that end of your little water bottle and pour it down the drain and throw that away.
Yeah.
In the meantime, these people got to walk 2 miles both ways just for a bucket of water that they got to use for the day and shit.
Yep.
Yeah, fucking America, man. That's how we go. America. Fuck yeah.
America.
Fuck yeah. Oh, see, I need a drop board. Pop that bitch in there. Now, in 2005, Leavenworth was downgraded to a medium security facility. So they transferred Tom to ADX Florence, Supermax in Colorado, which was the prison that he basically inspired.
This guy is taking a journey, man.
Well, he's taking a journey without getting to see any of it. Yeah. So he's going from spot to spot to spot, but all he sees is the same couple guards and the fucking same walls all day, every day.
My question is, do the other prisoners think of him in like high regard?
Very.
Okay.
He's kind of like a like Paul Bunyan of the prison gangs. You know what I mean? He's like,
oh, who's coming in?
He's held in very hard esteem.
Killed 7,000 guards with his bare hands. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I feel like that could have been why maybe the Cubans let him out. It's it's like when you see fucking. I picture it like Con Air. You know what I mean? Because everything is
Cyrus the Virus.
Right, but like these are a bunch of guys from different shit. But at some point, we're just trying to do some crime in, and you know what? Hey, we'll get this crazy motherfucker out. How about that?
Yeah.
Look, I don't like your gang, but I respect what you're doing out here. Right, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Stirring up shit. I like that.
When he goes to ADX Florence, he was set in an area called Range 13 in the SHU, which is Special Housing Units, which only has 4 cells. He's the main cell at the end, which the whole unit is kind of built around, and it was specially designed for him.
Wow.
It's got a shower built into it because he's not allowed to leave his cell for anything. So he doesn't even get to leave to go to showers. Well, he did stab that cop when he was going to shower,
Yep.
So he's not allowed to leave for showers.
I got the perfect solution for that. Put the shower in his cell.
His outdoor and indoor rec centers are built into his cell with electronic doors that just unlock when they need them.
Wow.
So even when he gets to go, he gets an hour a day, and I think it's only in one or the other. So if it's too cold to go in the outdoor rec area, he's got an indoor one.
Wow.
But so he just sits in there for his cell for 23 hours, and then either door opens, and he gets to spend an hour in that spot. It's also got a visiting room, which is also built into his cell.
Even though he's not allowed any visitors.
Right. So
it's just a tease his ass.
This is
good news and bad news.
This is a painting of his cell. Well, not a painting. This is a drawing of his cell that he did.
Cabinet without an eye, so a cabinet.
And then he does have a TV.
He does have a TV?
Once he moved to ADX Florence, they slowly started adding on privileges. They didn't do it to be humane. They did it because one of his evaluators said, if you don't have anything to take from him, there's nothing really stopping him from doing whatever. So you have no control over him because he doesn't have anything.
Right.
So once they put him here, they gave him...
that's messed up.
So they gave him a TV, and he can send mail. So he spends most of his time sending mail. He's got a blog that he sends his mail out to somebody they had a website that puts like his art up there, and they update stats on it, like keep you updated on what he's got going on and shit. But he can't ever meet with anybody or talk with anybody, so it's just from correspondence he can do. So he can send letters in and out. Over in this side, they got a conveyor belt. They put his food on the conveyor belt and send them into him. He puts the stuff back on the conveyor belt.
What do you mean a microwave?
So this is just for him?
That hallway is not his.
Oh, okay.
So that hallway he has no access to. That's the hallway he sees every day. But
he has access. That's the doors you were talking about that open up for
locked.
him.
Okay.
So he's in that part that says cell 23 hours a day. An hour for every day he gets to go in either the outside rec area or the indoor rec area.
Got it. Okay.
That hallway he gets to look into, all it has is a microwave that they can heat up his food in, and he could see out there, but nobody can go out there. They also built a hospital 100 yards from where his cell in the same unit because they don't want to take him out of the unit if they have to.
Damn.
God, man.
So anytime they take him out because he has court cases, so in 2007 he sued the prison system for saying that the no human contact rule was excessive, that it's
inhumane.
Yeah, it's inhumane, and he said basically it was torture. Like he was being tortured for killing a guard, so he's being used as an example, which they pretty much admit he was, but nobody gives a fuck. I mean, and whatever, it is what it is. He's in 2007 he sued him, but so when he would have to go to him from the doctor or to him from court and shit like that, and as much as possible they bring shit to him, but he's accompanied by 8 guards and another guard that records everything as it goes so that they can see every step he makes, and then you see all the big circles on the drawing of his unit. Yeah. Those are all cameras, so at any time they can see exactly where he is and what he's doing.
When I was in Washington State, I was living there. When I was coming home, I had to spend. They had like a charter flight at night, and the next flight was in the morning. Mm-hmm. So I had to spend the whole night in the SeaTac airport. And this was pre-internet too. So I just bought a book. I bought The Shining, and I decided I was going to read that all night. Around 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, there were 8 officers with a guy in the middle in a jumpsuit, chained up, and they walked him all the way across where I was sitting, and he stared at me the whole time as he walked. And I'm looking what in the fuck did this guy do? And they're so when you say 8 people, I realized the severity of the dude that was making eye contact with me as he walked through the whole airport. Because I was I'm reading The Shining. You know what I'm saying? And the airport is not very, there's not a lot going on. So that was, when you say that it adds a little gravity to what I seen that night.
And that guy probably was just fucking with you. You know what? You know what's going to scare the shit out of this guy?
I mean,
I'm fucking stare at this motherfucker.
I would too, but I mean, it seems like it was merited because, you know what I'm saying? If there was 8 cops,
yeah, I
couldn't believe it. I had never seen anything like that before.
How many setups does this jail had for prisoners like him?
Well, it's got a lot. Now you can see some of them. It's got a lot of these outdoor, so they have areas where it's a rec area where the prisoners can go to socialize.
Okay.
And each prisoner still is in a little cage. So you go outside, but then now you're all just in your individual cages around each other outside. Weird. It's really intense. But his is basically, the prison is kind of built around his unit. And that's why they got the visiting room in there. He's not allowed to have visitors, so that room's never been used.
Right.
But they have it
when he dies and
somebody else is going to go in there.
Yeah.
Well, he died on May 11th, 2019.
Wow, just last year.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't write him to draw an album cover.
So yeah, just recently, but you kicked it around for quite a long while.
Yeah, I mean, compared to a lot of the other stories I've listened to already, it's all back in the 1900s, 1800s. Those guys don't live very long.
No. So I ended up being 68, 69.
What's that?
68, 69 years old. He was at 52, right? He was born.
I think it was 67.
Okay.
He died in 2019. He was born in 52. So yeah, that'd be 67. So 67 years old. When he died,
he's been in jail since he was 19, right?
He came out after 19. He did 4 years at 19. Then he was out for a couple years and then went back. But in total, he did 36 years in solitary confinement, which is no American prisoner has spent more time in solitary confinement.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Who's in a cell now?
Right?
Dude, that's crazy.
Well, then now they got to do a draft board. So now they're going to go back to Florence and they're okay, put together their options. We got El Chapo, we got fucking Larry Hoover. Who are we going to put in the fucking Cadillac suite over there?
Man, that is insane. 36
Hannibal Lecter.
Years?
Yeah, 36 years and not just solitaire. It's 36 years of solitaire with no human contact. So outside of guards, he didn't talk to or see anybody for 36 years. No visitors,
nuts,
no prisoners, no nothing.
But he was able to correspond. So
yeah,
I mean, but still,
he was eventually able to send letters. And once he started sending letters, he sent so many. Like I said, he started a blog and a website and shit like that.
Yeah. He had his own Etsy. His Facebook was popping.
He did learn how to crochet.
How do you crochet without needles?
I don't know. Who are you gonna stab? You can't see people.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a conveyor belt, right?
I guess he wasn't a suicide risk.
I don't know. They for sure said he could crochet.
Be like, you can crochet, but you just got to use your fingers. You got to figure it out yourself, asshole. All right. You'll figure it out. You're a smart guy, Terrible Tommy. You'll figure it out.
All right, so that's the story of Terrible Tom.
So say good night to the bad guy. Go on. The last time you're going to see a bad guy like this again, let me tell you.
Terrible Tom spent more time doing nothing than he did doing anything.
Yeah, he was a match. Burnt hot for a short amount of time, and then just sat there for 36 years.
Do you have any idea what the legacy or the legend of Terrible Tom has transcended into, or is it's? I wonder if stories about like, I remember Terrible Tom. Like, he bumped into me in the lunch line one time. Like,
I seen a former federal prisoner say that he's kind of like the stuff of legends. Like, even though he only died recently,
yeah.
Technically, to the Aryan Brotherhood, to everybody, he's been gone forever. You know what I mean? Even though he's out there and they know he's out there,
yeah,
that's zero contact. There's nothing.
Yeah, it's not like he can do anything. He can't
do anything.
Yeah.
But so he was just kind of like a rallying cry. And honestly, kind of like we were talking about the Con Air thing, even with the people that aren't the Aryan Brotherhood,
yeah,
he's kind of respected as like a lot of these guys hate COs. So now we got to cast this. So if he's gonna make a movie of Terrible Tom Silverstein, I have the pictures. We haven't seen them yet. Do either you have like a pre-guess?
Can't be. It has to be a white guy.
Yes.
So that limits it.
Did you mention how tall he was?
That limits it to most of Hollywood.
You mentioned how tall he was?
Oscar's so white.
No, it really never referenced size-wise, and when I do have pictures, I've never seen a picture of him with another human, so all the pictures are of him all by himself, so I don't have a reference of size, honestly.
I don't know. He sounds like he'd be a pretty big dude.
Just the scenario and the descriptions, and especially the dudes with the mustaches, makes me think of Tom Hardy and Bronson.
Okay.
I don't know if he was that big or, that muscular or whatever, but how chaotic he was.
Right.
Made me think of Bronson, especially with the guards.
I was going to say, I feel like he's kind of an American equivalent kind of a Bronson type, right?
Oh, yeah, it sounds like it, yeah.
Or like a...
Especially his aggression toward the guards and his...
Chopper. One of them.
Yep. Yeah, even Chopper, yeah. Chopper Reed.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, well, here we go.
I would say like Brock Lesnar.
Brock Lesnar. Hey, Brock Lesnar is the only dude that could go to San Quentin or Leavenworth or wherever with that tattoo of a cock on his chest. And everybody like, oh, it's cool.
It's cool, dude.
Don't worry about it, Brock.
Hey, fucking with that guy.
All right, so I got a bunch of pictures of him, like through like a timeline.
Okay, so he was young.
It's like a Johnny Depp looking motherfucker.
Right? Yeah, man, John.
Oh man, I can't believe I can't remember his name right now. He was in the movie Maniac. He played the Maniac. He was also in Godfather. He looks like him. I'll be able to tell you in a minute, but on the right he looks like Peter Fonda. He turned into Peter Fonda.
So I got some more pictures. There's a bunch of pictures of him.
Oh, look, it's Tommy Chung.
Oh, come on, man.
You were talking about earlier, the Cholo thing. Like, look at that picture.
Yeah.
He looks like he's a white guy he looks like the little lowrider toy.
So wait a minute. If he has no human contact, that picture in the middle, that looks like 95% of the dudes at the gym. Who's taking pictures for him? And for what?
I don't know. For
like,
his,
he had no physical contact or no human contact, but he's smiling.
This must have been when he got his...
That's for his Facebook profile,
right,
that middle one,
yeah.
for sure.
Well, what I would say is this, is you see, like, when he was younger... Like, those pictures were like mugshots and shit like that. And then all of a sudden there's like, you don't see a gap in between. And then all of a sudden you see old again. So I'm assuming this was once he started getting some of his privileges and shit.
Definitely in the 2000s.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that one says 2009.
Oh, yeah, that one is.
So that's all got to be. He went to Florence in 2005. So somewhere around there.
So this definitely is that cage.
Yes. So that's the outside rec area.
Cage, yeah. Yeah, Joe Spinell was the name of the guy that when he was young, he looked like. Oh, man. Yeah, he looks different as he get older.
I got like 7 pictures, and he looks different in every one.
Yeah, he does. I was about to say that shit.
This is what I was thinking. We see a lot of him, right? So all his action shit is all when he's kind of younger, and it's all in one time frame, right? But then a lot of the story is him, you know, he goes to be 67 years old and shit.
Yeah.
So I think I want to get like both the Eastwoods. So Clint Eastwood and his son will play young him, and Clint Eastwood play like old him.
Right.
And then he could like direct it, they could win an award or something maybe.
Yeah. Even though on the left picture he is making an Owen Wilson face.
Right.
But you're dead on with the Eastwood shit. Like it's not that he looks that much like him, but that's the rugged type of
right.
You're dead on.
He could play it.
For
He
sure.
could play it.
For sure.
So I mean, you would think someone would have made a movie about this dude.
You know, I feel like this every time I do one, but like these guys.
But I mean, they designed a whole prison around this guy. You know, the guy that's.
Yeah, that's.
You know what I'm saying?
And then look at him. You're like built an entire prison because of that guy.
Right. Like here, he looks like just some stoner that got his third DUI.
It does.
Shit.
Then I don't know. He looks like Mr. Rogers there. You know.
Doesn't look very dangerous, but then again, they don't have it look dangerous. That's crazy, man. I didn't expect him to look like that. He doesn't look so terrible.
So now we gotta do the DEFCON scale. Standard DEFCON scale is 5 to 1. 5 being the lowest, 1 being the highest. But these guys are all bad guys. So even 5's not a good guy. 5 is like Lee Murray, like a crack dealing, kidnapping, bank robber.
Right.
1 would be the Purple Gang, who is, you know, doing multiple massacres and gang wars and killing cops in the streets. On a scale of Lee Murray to the Purple Gang, where would you rate Terrible Tom?
I would say about a 3.
Yeah, I'm at 3 too. I mean, it's so hard to he killed a guard.
Yeah.
I mean, he stabbed the dude 42 times. So shanked him. I mean, my bad.
Get your prison terms right.
Yeah. My bad. He shanked him.
You don't stab a guy 42 times.
No,
you shank a guy 42
you shank
times.
a guy 42 times, and it makes that noise too. Shink, 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 shink.
Yeah, I mean, he was a pretty badass, but like, it's not like he went off the handle and killed a bunch of people.
Right.
I mean, I think I only remember 3-4 murders.
It was 4. 3 prisoners and a guard.
Right. And
Which I feel only 4 murders.
I mean, they're prisoners.
Right.
There,
yeah.
Right,
so.
at the same that's what the interesting part about it, though. 3 prisoners and a guard, meaning that he didn't kill anybody outside of the prison system.
No non-combatants.
So that's...
Which I'm kind of shocked, though. You know, you hear a lot of stories about, even like, I know this is, you know, the 50s through, you know, 2000s, but...
Yeah.
You know, a lot of these other stories, you know, they've gotten off, like that one dude who kept getting out of jail.
Yeah.
I mean,
that is
he
weird.
was for sure not getting out.
Right, and he's killing prisoners and shit, but he was already in there for a long time. So what else do you do? He just got the short end of the stick, you know, when he got in trouble.
Yeah.
First time.
He seems like... I mean, like, this sounds horrible, but he doesn't sound like he's very good at what he does.
Huh?
Meaning that the little things that he did, I mean, they're not little things, but they're insignificant compared to the volume of things that other people have done.
Yeah.
Okay.
He never got away with anything.
No, and he seemed to do the minimal to get the maximum.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So, again, not minimizing the death of a guard, but he did that one thing that fucked him forever.
Yeah.
Put him in a room with no contact. It's like, you know, he really aimed high, but came up low.
Fell
if that
short.
makes sense. If it makes, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
no, I
it
get
just, he really fucked himself.
Right.
And,
Right, he was trying to prove a point
yeah.
to some guards to let them know, don't fuck with us, and
Yeah.
all he did was just screw himself. I mean, what'd he get out of it? You know,
And not only
his homies
did
didn't
he
help
not
him.
reap the benefits from it, but he screwed over an entire prison of people for. So I guess, you know,
I don't know, was it better in the long run? Because
yeah, there's
he
a
would have
couple
been.
different ways to look at it. You can look at it and be like, man, this guy changed the prison system. This guy, you know what I'm saying? Like, because he did.
Right.
He changed one whole prison, their entire shit for 24 years, and he also facilitated the building of another prison. So it's like, you know, how do you rate that? Like, it's just strange.
If it
Pretty
was
strange guy.
If it wasn't for Terrible Tom, where would we put El Chapo? You know what I mean? Like, fuck.
And he still escaped from wherever the hell they put him in before. What was he, like, he went through the roof or some shit? Like, I don't know, man. It's just very interesting how you take this one guy that nobody's heard of, and then you realize all the things that changed because of him.
Right.
Yeah. And then you look at him, and then you see what he did, and you're like, man, really?
Yeah.
All because of him?
Well, right. I think that's...
Like, not even Manson, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, because this is the same era and shit, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they might even talk about Manson as if he's deadlier, you know, just because of his influence.
Well, I'm glad that came up, because I actually had something for that, but I forgot to mention it. So anything I don't write down, I will forget. Turns out I don't remember anything. But
yeah, I'm 44, so I know how that goes.
Manson went to the Aryan Brotherhood for security, and they wouldn't work with him. And they didn't like him for one, because he killed a pregnant lady, and for two,
his music.
Charlie Manson was a little left for them.
Little left?
Left leaning, yeah, he's a little liberal, like some of his. So that's when Charlie Manson is a little left for you.
Yeah, you know, he came. We had a meeting. You know, at the end of the day, we just didn't see eye to eye. Like, it's not just because he's short.
Well, it's one of those things where you almost get some respect. You're like, oh, they won't work with Charles Manson because he killed a pregnant lady, and you're like, yeah, I respect that. And they're like, well, and I think Charles Manson's very liberal. Like, well, yeah. So what the fuck? All right, and we're back.
He didn't dislike black people, so yeah, I can't really fuck with him.
All right, so we'll call that a majority 3 then. I guess we can go with.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, it's a hard one though, just because of.
Was that your number?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to negotiate, but I think, like you said, you know, he doesn't seem to be. He's aggressive. I mean, we didn't get much information. Maybe he was running this great, you know, operation that I never heard of. I don't know. Right. But it seems like, as far as the information that's public record. Seems like he got caught doing everything he ever did.
Right.
You know?
He was always up for the fight, but just didn't know how to handle it. Right?
Yeah. Like, and he could win a fight, but I mean, he's getting caught. So and you know, when you start looking at body count, there's some guys that really put up, you know, he killed a handful of guys, and it seems like, well, I mean, 2 of them he didn't even do. You know, and then
yeah, I didn't do it. I didn't do it.
He didn't even do 2 of them, and then
kill that guy.
And then the one guy wanted to kill him. You know, Cadillac Ray wanted to kill him, and Merle Clutts was me.
That one I did.
Merle Clutts was
that
me.
one I did.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you admit to the other 2? I mean, did he really not kill them? Because I mean, you already got a life sentence, like.
Well, I think maybe once you carried that guy around, I don't know, or maybe you tell the story, you're gonna stick with it.
I mean, like, yeah, why wouldn't you just say, like, I killed him.
I'm in here, right? Wouldn't I want people to fear me?
Right?
Like, yeah, I kill those motherfuckers.
So maybe he didn't kill
I'm
him.
not going up for parole anytime soon.
Yeah, and how does it make it any better where you're like, I didn't kill them 2,
that would be
but
the
I
only
did
reason.
this guy.
Right,
you know?
that would be the only reason why you don't admit to someone, is because there's a chance that you might get out of
jail.
Hey, exactly. That legitimately would be pretty rough. Like, you go to prison for some armed robberies, get 2 fucking bodies that you didn't do, and then at some point you're just like, well, fuck it.
I'm here.
I mean, I'm already getting charged with them. I might as well just fucking
that's
get my shank on.
Right. Yeah, that's some very. That's
because he admitted to the other 2 people that he killed. I mean that is true. People seen him.
Right.
So maybe he really didn't kill those 2 people.
So it was 4 people total, right?
Yes.
2 that he said he didn't do. 1, the Cadillac Ray, and then 1, the
guard.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, that's. It's hard to say, man.
Well, and let's not forget about that $11,000 he stole from 3 liquor stores or whatever the fuck he was out.
Well, $11,000 in 70s money is.
That's a decent haul.
$54,000. Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Zach, this is Crystal Palace. Sync no radars, declare DEFCON 3. Scramble all alert aircraft. I repeat, scramble all alert aircraft.
All right, you guys got anything before we go?
Good story, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna go home and practice my drawing so that one day I can be as good as Terrible Tom.
I'm glad we could be of an inspiration to you. That's what we're here for, you know? All right. You want to look at pictures of them? It'll be on the Instagram at Bad Guy Podcast. And you can email us. So any questions, comments, anything like that, email us at sayhellotothe@gmail.com. Well, that's the podcast. Thanks for coming. Thanks for listening.
Yeah.